Now, with Spring Racing Carnival underway, Melbourne Cup Day is just around the corner, and while it may be dubbed the race that stops a nation, there doesn't seem to be anything stopping millions of Aussies from handing their cash over in hopes of winning big. 95.6 million in Melbourne Cup bets taken in Victoria and New South Wales alone in 2009, but it could lead to serious consequences. That's the view of Wilson Luna, who's a financial expert and founder of Your Family, Your Money, and he joins me on the line. G'day, Wilson.
Thank you, Luke.
So if I have 50 cents each way, is that going to be a problem for me?
No, mate. We're talking more from the point of view, and we're mainly speaking to those people that find it hard just to have a bit of a flutter and control themselves.
Right.
And unfortunately, one thing that happens particularly on events like this is because there's so many people participating, it's got such big media coverage, is that people sometimes start getting carried away.
Yeah.
To the average punter, of course, let's have fun, let's go out there, back our horse, and have a few drinks in the process, and it'd be great.
Yes.
It's all about those people that, and we're even trying to speak to, I suppose, the spouses of those individuals that, have had bad experiences with their spouses going out of control and maybe, spending some money that they really shouldn't have, i.e., their normal grocery money, etc., and getting stuck into their budget versus really controlling themselves and not getting out of that control in terms of that day anyway.
All right, and that's a fair thing because very often these people who are problem gamblers, they are very good at hiding their addiction, aren't they?
Yeah, look, there's some really telltale signs, and a couple of them are exactly what you just said. They're very secretive about gambling. They actually call gambling the hidden illness because there's no physical symptoms or signs.
Yeah.
So it's not like drug or alcohol addiction, which you can see it on the person because they don't look well. It's just something that generally they'll hide it, or they'll be a bit more secretive, and they'll go out sometimes and they won't say where they've gone, etc. And that's generally the first signs. Yeah.
And you hear these horrible stories where all of a sudden these people in a family situation are walking forward through life, having a great time, and then they lose their house and everything else. How do you protect yourself against that?
Well, that's one of the things. It's that spouse, as we were talking about, the spouse or the family that's left over. And unfortunately, sometimes when you find out about it, in Australia alone, $19 billion gets spent on gambling last year alone. So the figure's staggering. And for those that don't do it responsibly, if you did lose a big proportion, they would know the effects, and unfortunately the families that are left over are left in slight ruins. But what we've done is we've put together a couple of steps that at least if you're the spouse of that person and you know that they've got a few issues with that,
yep,
you can at least put it into place and at least hopefully, start preventing some of it.
Okay, so step one is put your assets in joint names?
Look, if not joint, better still, if you know they've got a problem, put it in your name. Put some of the assets in your name. If you've both agreed, for whatever reason you've agreed that the other person's got problems in terms of controlling themselves, go to the extreme where you say, okay, well, look, how about I hold all the expenses for the household, or at least the main expenses or the principal expenses, and here's the proportion that you can use for, what you're going to use it for, if you can have a flutter or whatever on the Melbourne Cup. So give them, and I know this sounds childish, but treat it like an allowance sort of for the day.
Okay.
If you can't stop it altogether.
And you also suggest having a personal account with at least 3 to 6 months' worth of living expenses?
Look, that for a lot of people is realistic in terms of size. If you can have that much, fantastic, because what he does is he provides you with some kind of security that for whatever reason something goes bad and your partner goes out there and spends a whole bulk of money, you've still got enough for the living expenses to take care of the kids, to take them to school, to do the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
So ideally, obviously, 3 to 6 months is ideal. But even if you've got a couple of months, make sure you've got it in a separate account, which you can access if worse comes to worse.
Yeah, and the gambler can't have control of the family finances, can he or she?
No. That I think would be the main outcome of it, which is once it's identified, because one of the biggest problems, and one of the common sayings that a gambler will usually say, funnily enough, is he'll say things like, it's not the lack of money, it's the real problem. It's the lack of money that's the real problem, not my gambling, or I know I should quit, but I love gambling. There's all these sayings that come out of them. And it's when you see this regularly, if you see certain tell signs, i.e. families telling them, look, I think you're going overboard, etc., it's a really good time to sort of sit down as a couple or as a family and say, look, maybe it's best that I handle the finances.
Yeah.
And at least that way you're protecting everybody else in the family as well. And you're even protecting them, funnily enough, because you're holding them to account.
Indeed. Makes good sense. What's the website there, Wilson?
www.yourfamilyyourmoney.com.
Very good. Thanks for your time, mate.
Thank you, Luke.
Have a good night. Bye-bye. 7 to